So welcome everybody. Welcome to this online session with Mitos Urgel. My name's Nimiti. I'm the chair of the Fair Trade Association. So welcome to everyone that's joined us today. So I'd just like to start by acknowledging that I'm presenting, and Mitos also, from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And so before I introduce Mitos, just to maybe talk through our plan for today. So Mitos is going to share a presentation about the work that she does in Asia, and then we'll be opening it up. I'll be asking some questions and also opening it up to questions from everybody here. So you'll have a chance to put forward your questions. You're also welcome to add questions to the chat, and I'll hold them till after Mitos's presentation when we have the Q&A. And I'm also happy to sort of put those forward for you. So welcome everybody. So Mitos, I'd just like to share, Mitos is the president of the World Fair Trade Organization Asia, and she is also the CEO of Weave International, an organization in Asia that does some amazing work with refugees. So without further ado, Mitos, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Warm greetings. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to speak to you. So I would like to share to you a bit of the work that we are doing in Weave. So I will be presenting the work that we are doing at Weave with refugee women artisans. And also I would like to cover a bit about the work that we are doing in WFTO Asia, the regional network of 140 producers, guaranteed producers. And maybe we can talk about ideas on how we can work together to build and grow the fair trade movement globally. Before I do a presentation, I would like to give you a 5 minutes video of Weave. So I hope this will work. Why is not working, Nim?
I think if you just hover below and click on the play, is it working?
For a while. I will do the play.
There we go.
Okay.
Kiểu muốn nộp việc lệ thì nó có hệ nên mà kiểu muốn nộp việc lệ thì sao cũng lúc đó khách tiền nên mà nhang nhang nên mà qua nã nơi sơn lơ lúc đó có hệ được và bơ về u đơn nộp việc lệ thì nên mà về thiếu bên nên mà về thiếu đủ như bạn nên nào ấy lúc đó có hệ được và nếu một cái khi nó có ai chủ đứng này cái kia cái này đó thì áp sát này thì cũng lúc khi nó có hệ bơ về thì sinh nhị thì này mà so the trend might be ma patene te pishi shi osi to ka ma pe cha si no reset no klo no ko ne ma so the ne me pu ne no klo bị chế cái lì tô chế cái là tô ba bị vô cái thi bị chế cái bị vô bia gì cái trà gì này mà bị chế là cái khi bà bị bà nó cũng có đỡ ui à lo à mù này mà ui sao tập nó có bị đa bị chế nó có khô à kì thì xí vô thì trên này cái đó cũng đi cũng đau thì mẹ bố trí cái gì mà ui ba thì ui lo cái đó nó ba bị bớt rồi đó ui bà pia chi cái này bị đã bị này cái rừng mà bị cái rừng mà bị su cái thì bị lủng tôi mà bị tôi cái đó thì các bà này ha bị anh ấy nó và nó bị chết cái nó thì mà bị chết tự bị như thì khi để phe đồ ba bị đa đa cái bị sao bị khô thì đaเมื่อสักข้าตัวตักข้าออกมาเป็นบิดเดอร์ดันเราก็บิดเจนแล้วก็พี่จะบิดเดอร์ได้กี่กิโลเนี่ยจะโลเจนเราก็อีโน่นนี่เราก็ว่าตอนนั้นเด็กกี่บิดเจนดิบซีมาเจนเราก็ดีวิดาวาอีเพกเจกชาตัวสักข้ากูบิดซาตาเจก็บิดเจก็ได้อีน้ำมันโลปุ้ยเราก็เด้อบิดตะกล้อตะเกลือนี่นะก็ si nó剪đi剪đà về phu rồi mà về phu nó mà bị ép chứ剪đi剪là ra bị he thế ta đồ tổng cái đó ta thơ cho là ta chỉ thua bên nó ba nó mà bị ép chỉ bị he về đi là ba ra ít xóa cái về điเจกับผู้คนที่คนล่างงทุกเลิกก็ปีผู้คนเนี่ยเราก็แห่ปีปีเจก็มีตัวก็ปีผู้เราปีที่เราเจนดีเจนดาวับซีแล้วก็ผู้รู้ผู้ม้าไปผู้ม้าไปผู้เดี๋ยวเราก็ปีที่เราเจนเราก็ปาโนบาปีกับปีเดอร์ปีเธอปีกี่เรามาปีนี้ใช่เธอไม่กี่น้องมาปีที่จีก็เดอร์เสียดดื้อนี่ใช่สิจีก็พูดติดสิติดดื้อติดโมติเร่รอดอกผู้ชมผู้งี้ติดกระผู้งี้มาที่ตัวดอกผู้ชมผู้งี้มาที่ตัวว่าปีมีเจก็เราว่าปีอุปเสียวดื้อก็เราว่าปีสิเสกก็พูดเด้อคุณที่คุณดาสีเนี่ยเราว่าปีสิเสกก็เราว่าปีสิเราชาบานเมดู
Okay. Yeah, I hope it gives you a perspective of how the refugee camp look like. So, so I would like to start my presentation talking about Weave. Weave because we work with weavers, but also Weave stands for Women's Education for Advancement and Empowerment. And we are a refugee women-powered organization. And as the video presented, we have an enterprise subsidiary in Thailand, highly committed to support women in their communities to become socially, economically, and politically empowered. Weave is one of the fair trade enterprises that demonstrates the positive impact of the fair trade movement on improving the lives of marginalized and vulnerable refugee artisans around the globe. And for more than 20 years now, our work to improve refugee lives at camps on the Thai-Myanmar border by facilitating increased accessibility, gender equity, and quality of education for refugees and their communities. I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation. Are you able to see my screen?
We can see the file screen. And are you just trying to open PPT now?
Okay. Okay. So before coming to Australia,
Mitos, we are looking at your Finder screen, not the presentation. You may need to unshare.
Unshare.
And then share and click on the presentation.
Are you able to see now?
Yes. And then if you put it into presenter mode, yep, beautiful.
Okay.
That's the one. Okay.
Okay. All
yes.
right. Okay, so before coming to Australia, I just came back from a humanitarian mission in one of the temporary safe zones on the Thai-Myanmar border, because we are experiencing a crisis situation on the border due to the most recent attack that happened, an aerial assault launched by the Burmese military in one of the IDP camps, forcibly sending over 3,800 people across the border in Thailand. And the continuing attack is deplorable. It's curtailing access to food, communication, and security. The constant attack, including airstrikes of communities and terrorizing civilians, including children, is taking away the future of the young generation, and it is tantamount to death. The situation is horrible, and the human suffering of these people continue. Despite the fact that they are now temporarily safe in Thailand, however, they are facing immediate problems of food shortage, water, housing, proper sanitation, and because it is now monsoon season, there's a lot of rain and lots of flooding. So as you can see here, these young boys actually, they're not really well equipped. They are not really trained, but they want to fight, because at some point their parents have been subjected to violence. Some of their parents were killed, so they want to take revenge. So it's really very disheartening. It's such a horrible situation. But I think I would like to give you a global perspective, actually. So here are some numbers, how the war is actually massive. The UN Agency for Refugees reported in their 2022 global trend that there are over 108 million persons who are forcibly displaced. And of this figure, around over 35 million are refugees. On the Thai-Myanmar border, where we are operating, which is already around 3 decades, over 90,000 remain to be displaced in the fringes of Thailand and Myanmar. And can you guess how many percent women and children? Do you have any idea? Around 65% are women and children. And you might wonder, in terms, if you for example, if you go to the camp, you will notice that most of those in the camp are women and children. Where do you think are the boys and the men? Yes, they are fighting in the front line. The influx of the new arrivals have put additional burden, additional pressure on the already strained resources and capacity of the host communities and humanitarian agencies. The Thai royal government has been providing safe shelter and assistance to the new arrivals, but has also been enforcing strict border controls and repatriation policies to prevent a mass exodus from Myanmar. The UN agency and refugees and other partners have been supporting the government's effort, but have also been challenged in accessing and assisting the new arrivals due to the security and logistical constraints. The humanitarian crisis on the Thai-Myanmar border is not only a matter of survival, but also of dignity and hope. The refugees and displaced persons have endured decades of displacement and uncertainty with no clear prospect for a durable solution. They have lost their homes, their livelihoods, their cultures, and their identity because neither Burma nor Thailand wants them. So they are now without a country to return to, and they have become stateless. So because of this, they suffered from trauma, isolation, discrimination, and isolation. And they need more than just basic necessities. They need their human rights, their capacity to rise above their present situation, and to heal and rebuild their lives and communities with dignity and respect. My organization, WEAVE, is one of the many organizations working to support those people forced to flee to survive, where conflict uproot lives, fair trade weaves opportunities. Our activities are rights-based, with strong anchoring in addressing the rights of individual for survival, protection, participation, access to education, access to safe, fair, and dignified work. So since we were founded, we evolved. So we were founded in 1990 when the first influx of refugees arrived to Thailand. And actually, one of our founders from Australia, her name is Mati Patel. So she worked with a lot of indigenous women and founded WEAVE to support the needs of children and women. So the organization over the years evolved and offered innovative solutions to address the priorities within the framework of 3 goals that includes humanitarian and relief, development, and as well as women's economic empowerment through fair trade. Dedicated to gender equality and the empowerment of women and their communities, WEAVE extends education and support community initiatives that protect and promote the status of children and women. And this is premised on the belief that quality education is the single most effective means of reducing poverty and the key to their empowerment. And this is particularly relevant within the refugee context, where marginalization and disparity in services like education, health, and income opportunity are prevalent. In this slide, I would like to share that fair trade in its approach is an ethical approach to business that seeks to create equitable partnership between producers in developing countries and consumers worldwide. It aims to ensure that artisans receive fair prices for their products, promote sustainable environmental practices, and empower marginalized communities economically. WEAVE Fair Trade has been at the forefront of this movement, working tirelessly to bridge the gap between artisans and consumers, all the while supporting communities on the Thai-Myanmar border. Our work demonstrates how trade can be a powerful tool for social transformation. First and foremost, WEAVE empowers women, and the organization prioritizes women's economic independence, enabling refugees and indigenous women to become skilled weavers and artisans who can generate safe and dignified income to support themselves and their families. By engaging women in the fair trade practices, WEAVE not only fosters economic development, but also empowers them to become agents of change in their communities. Furthermore, WEAVE establishes fair and transparent trade relationships, guaranteeing that artisans receive prices that reflects the true value of their exquisite products. Through this approach, WEAVE empowers artisans to invest in their livelihoods, education, and healthcare, contributing to breaking the cycle of dependency and ultimately poverty. Additionally, WEAVE places a strong emphasis on environmental sustainability. The organization encourages artisans to use natural dyes, eco-friendly materials, and practices promoting the preservation of time-honored craft techniques adopting indigenous and circular economy practices to protect the environment. By adopting sustainable production practices, WEAV is committed to leaving positive ecological footprints on our planet. Another remarkable aspect of WEAV is its commitment to social development. Through training and capacity building programs, artisans are equipped with skills that not only enhance their craftsmanship, but also enable them to tackle broader social issues. This holistic approach enables artisans to become catalysts for change, addressing challenges including gender inequality. Actually here, as you can see on the lower side, because most of the men are working in the front line, when they come back, they either lose their limbs or they become disabled, from the war. So when they come to the camp, they are relegated to domestic responsibility of taking care of the children, including taking care of the children. So what we are seeing in the project is that there is actually a role reversal. Women are the ones that are bringing food in the table through the crafts that they are making, and their husbands are actually taking care of the children. Next would be, so our impact extends beyond the financial transaction. It fosters long-lasting relationship built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. The organization connects artisans with conscious consumers who appreciate the unique stories behind each of the exquisite handcrafted products. This connection strengthens the bond between cultures, fostering a global community that supports responsible trade practices. This also changed the narrative that refugees are just burden, because there is that impression that, when refugees come to a particular country or place, they are taking the job, they are encroaching in the territory, they are bringing all these public health diseases. But through this collaboration that we are having with the host communities, there is that change in narrative. Now in the community are working, refugees are seen as productive contributors, not only to their families, but also to the economy of their host country. So maybe I will just skip this presentation, but I would like to, I think all of present here, we are already quite aware that Fair Trade is a partnership based on dialogue, transparency, and respect, working to promote social and environmental as well as economic justice in international trade. But also, fair trade is more than just trading. It is a vision of business and trade that put people and planet before profit. We work to fight poverty, climate change, gender inequality, and injustice. And we pioneer solutions to broader issues like overuse of natural resources, transforming communities, women's empowerment, refugee livelihoods, human rights, and many other things. And I would like to share a bit about the community where we belong. So the World Fair Trade Organization is our home. It is composed of many social enterprises around the world. We're a global community of social enterprises fully practicing fair trade. And we have our guarantee system. We verify our members through this process. I just want to share a little bit, I think, about how we are being organized. So we are operating in 17 countries. So we have retailers, importers, brands, and producers. And I represent the Asian group, although we also have producers in Africa and then in Latin America. I think I don't need to mention that we are the oldest. We are the oldest body. Yeah. But I think I would like to highlight that the guarantee system, our guarantee system gives recognition to our members. And as is shown in this slide, we have retail partnership, and we hope that this will increase. Increasingly, retailers and buyers are recognizing that organization and enterprises that have been through the WFTO guarantee system are very specific, and they are special breeds. Then also, we have a whole lot of fair trade wholesalers that are part of the WFTO community. And these organizations include in the US, in Canada, Australia, Japan, Korea, and across Europe. And they are specifically targeting buying from WFTO members. Then we have a large network of retailers through the national retail networks, and this includes the German World Shops in Germany. Then we have the French World Shop in the US, Fair Trade Federation, and then, yeah, to mention a few. And all of whom recognize WFTO members as guaranteed fair trade. We also do audits, and this happen every 4 years. There's a distinct difference between WFTO and other certification models, which are going audit. So I think that's a huge difference. We go for 4 years audit. And also, just to highlight, to mention that the WFTO is owned by our members. We are the members, and we are governed. No? The members, we are governed by our members. We are not a third-party certification business. We are an organization that is the heart of the global fair trade movement. From 1980 onwards, it has always been the case. We gather every 2 years for our annual general meeting where we elect our global board, and we make big decisions about our principles, about our system, and we approve our budgets and work plans. So it's a very much participatory network that is owned by the movement and owned by the fair trade enterprises around the world. So yeah, so in this slide, we are located in 76 countries, and we're making all kinds of products and handcrafted that are handcrafted. Handicrafts are the most prominent one. And majority of our members are artisans making homeware and fashion products. So the bubble represents the relative size and distribution of our membership. The next slide that I would like to show you is actually about, the certification, the fair trade and the social enterprises, wherein we differ from lots of certification models. This is just a small section of the kinds of certifications out there. There's a lot of product labels, the commodity certifications. Different institution, and ours is a hybrid of two different ideas. The other one is the enterprise verification. So one is around certification and the supply chain, and the other is around the enterprise and what the enterprise stands for. And WFTO is in the middle. And our guarantee system bring together, these two together, make sure that the social enterprises fully commits to the 10 principles of fair trade. The WFTO model verify the entire enterprise, confirming it is truly mission-led. But we do this by focusing on producer as primary stakeholders, thereby verifying practices and conditions on the supply chain of the enterprise as well. And I think you're familiar of the guarantee system that we are actually using. So in Asia, we find that fair trade is somehow rapidly growing in Asia over the past decade, as more and more producers and consumers recognize the benefits and opportunities of fair trade. The latest report I got is that, yeah, we have over 140 fair trade organizations in Asia, representing 20 countries, with over 1 million producers and workers. So this organization cover a wide range of sectors, including agriculture, handicrafts, textile, cosmetics, and tourism. The impact of fair trade across Asia is significant and multifaceted. Fair trade not only improves the income and well-being of producers and workers, but also enhances their capacity, resilience, and agency. It also fosters social cohesion, solidarity, diversity, and peace among the communities where it operates, and promotes environmental sustainability, biodiversity, and climate action through organic farming, natural resource management, circularity, and green innovation. So I'm sharing to you some of the fair trade enterprises who are involved in circular economy. Fair trade practices are advanced model for ensuring business takes care of people. When combined with new approaches in circular economy, what results are the world's most inspiring enterprises. These fair trade enterprises showcase the business models. They're like in this slide, because there is a surge in upcycling waste and recycling across the global community of fair trade enterprises. In Bangladesh, for example, Crafts Bangladesh, they are turning their waste saris, paper, and discarded cotton from fashion factories into bags, baskets, and ornaments. And meanwhile, Village Work Cambodia, they are a fair trade enterprise turning waste and discarded plastics into bag. Meanwhile, Salai Philippines is producing papers from recycled materials, banana, natural fibers, and non-timber products, natural grasses and flowers. And I would like to mention that their artisans used to be former combatants, yeah? But now they are doing a lot of poverty reduction and doing a lot of work, fair trade work. We also have organization in working around organic and regenerative agriculture. Every fair trade enterprises must put people and planet first. So this includes focus on organic agriculture to make sure farming doesn't undermine the local ecology. This is why most fair trade enterprises sourcing food and agricultural products are fostering organic farming methods. Yeah, so these are the examples. Last Forest India, Greenet Thailand, Podi, and Sri Lanka. And here are some more examples of fair trade enterprises who are making significant impact in transforming communities, empowering women, fighting inequality and marginalization, such as Celine Sri Lanka, Artisans Link in Pakistan, Mitra Bali. These organizations are fully fair trade, guaranteed fair trade. So I think that's it. I would just like to mention that everything that we do does leave the definition of sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. Putting the interests of producer first is a transformative idea to have business prioritize farmers, workers, and artisans above increasing its profit. Doing so unlocks the potential of business to be a force for good. It makes possible to invest in people and planet in ways to go today's mainstream business world. So I think
thanks. That's wonderful. Yeah, so thank you. You can stop sharing now. Yeah, that's great. So I would like to open it up to questions. If anybody would like to share some questions in the chat, but just to get us started, Mitos, one of the things that I think is really helpful for people that are starting their own fair trade business or who are just getting involved in the fair trade movement is to understand how you personally first became involved and what inspired you to work in fair trade. Would you mind sharing a little about that with us?
Yeah, I think I have a very long history of that. And yeah, actually it started when I was like 3 years old. I was in the daycare center. We have that like a nursery school, but that was a time when there's martial law in the Philippines. As a child, we get very curious with what is happening around us, but that was also the time when massive organizing is taking place in the community that we live. And I hear all this organizing and, you know, revolutionary songs being taught or chanted in my community. And I got so curious about it. I learned the songs. So whenever our teacher in the nursery school would ask the children to sing or recite nursery school rhyme, I would raise my fist and sing revolutionary song. I didn't understand then about that, but that was it opened my mind that there is a gap. There seemed to be inequality. I feel privileged as a child. Every time I'm being sent to school, we have a car, but then my classmates, they have to walk. So at the age of 9, I decided, no, I will not take the car anymore. I will just walk. But I think that is where I started. It's not yet like I don't have any idea about social justice then. I only feel that there is inequality. And actually that sets forth my decision what course to take. I took up agriculture. I want to help the marginalized. It was a big disappointment for my family because they want me to work in our farm. We have a farm. But then I had a different path. I think that's why, because of that early foundation I have. And after I graduated in the university, I worked with a community of indigenous community. And then after that, few years later, I decided that I wanted to do something. That's why I ended up on the Thai-Myanmar border. And inequality is so prevalent, and that's why I believe that there should be a solution to it, and it should not only by receiving aids and grants. So that's why the priority of WIV is really to ensure that women are able to become more economically independent and to live life with dignity. And I think that was the journey I have for many years. And I am here now, still continuing to do that. I think for as long as there's still injustices, I think I will continue to be working for that.
Wonderful. And I think one of the things that's, you know, becomes very clear for those of us when we work in the fair trade space is that each piece of work that you're doing is having an impact on those people that you're working with. I mean, you were talking about some statistics and pictures and numbers and that's all really important stuff, but it's really that individual level of knowing that that individual person has now got that dignity and hope and is rebuilding their life that I think is so empowering and so inspiring, I would say, as well, listening to your story. Just want to check in with the group here. Does anyone have a question you'd like to ask Mitos? I've got some more I can keep going here, so that's fine. But if you do, you can just raise your hand or unmute or pop it in the chat if you like. Corinne, did you have one?
All right, so one of my friends who's here with me says, how do you choose which women to help?
Oh, good question.
Actually, we don't choose them. The women themselves choose who are the women that should participate in the project. And it's very empowering for the women to actually do that. When they first come to the project, the orientation is always that we will only be able to do as much as like maybe help you look for the market, but we want you to have your own tools, because actually as weavers, they always carry with them. They work on a backstrap loom. I think you have seen in the picture, they can carry it whenever they have time, you know? So it's like a pastime. People would bring their own like crochet material. The women also, they do that. So they are the ones that look for those marginalized, most vulnerable women in the community. And they would approach, we have a group of quality control women, and they would approach them and say, hey, our neighbor, my neighbor, she's a battered woman, you know, and she have plenty of children. Can we bring her to the training? So it's the women themselves who make the decision who should participate in the program. because yeah, we told them, if you feel that you are already in the position to help other women, you should do that. So that is how we have this much number of women, because of the community themselves choose who should participate.
Wonderful. Yeah. Any other questions that anyone would like to ask? We can put them in the chat. So Mitos, I'm curious to hear a little more about the women that you work with and who you've met along the journey. So is there a story you could share of someone maybe that you've worked with that maybe has stuck in your mind in terms of their personal journey? Yeah.
Yeah, actually the woman that was in the video, her name is Some, Mo Some. She's one of the most, she's really very empowered woman, yeah. So when she talked a lot in the video actually. I did not realize that 3 of her children are all boys, 5 boys actually.
Wow.
3 of them managed to complete their university through her weaving. And one time her son came from, after graduating. So because there are some scholarship for those indigent and well-deserving refugee, there are some schools in Thailand that offer opportunity. So they have that access. But for like miscellaneous or for, pocket money, her mother is actually sending, this money to them. And it's really very impressive, because now in the film, as you have seen, she was talking about she didn't have education. She does not know how to read and write. But, she managed to make her son complete their university education. And I think that's a standout for us, one of the standout for us, because in the past, she was a weaver. She became a master weaver, and now she's an entrepreneur already, because from the money that she got from Fair Trade, she reinvested it. Women are very good in doing that. So she has a consumer shop now, and she also is raising domestic animals, ensuring that her children have access to livelihood, and the husband also, who become disabled because of the war. She is not weaving anymore, yeah, but her status has elevated. And for us, that is very important. It's fine, even if we feel that we are missing her and somehow the production unit is also quite affected, but this is her life, and she is now, improving her status. And for me, that's one of the biggest achievement that we have.
Well, it's an amazing story. And I know you were chatting the other night, or you mentioned the other night at the event here in Sydney about the positive psychological impact of how the women were able to use the weaving to process the emotional trauma. Would you mind sharing a little more about that as well?
Yeah, because actually when the project started, it was meant to be like to give them the training. And then in early 1990s, maybe 2 years after the camp was set up on the border area, the camp was attacked by the Democratic Karen Buddhist Army, another fraction of, another resistance group, and they burned the whole camp. And because of that, we decided to do a fundraising. We asked the women, what are you good in doing? And they said, oh, we are very good weavers, we are good sewers and embroiders. And we started to develop products in order to raise funds. And the goal then was just to set up or to rebuild the huts, their houses. And we have seen the kind of intensity when women are actually working in their crafts, whether weaving, sewing, embroidery. We are seeing they are increasing their level of concentration. Because when women, and I think we are all experiencing different problems, especially with family, it's very difficult to concentrate. Yeah. But when the women are weaving, we are seeing actually the first time they joined the project, and I have this shawl. This shawl is used in the backstrap loom. When they first come into the project, the fabrics are very hard, or how do you call to describe it? Rough. Fabric is, and because all the anger, it's being transferred into the weaving that they are making. And sometimes it's not really loose, it's also loose. So we realize that it depends on the thoughts and the feeling of an artisan. When the person is very angry, the fabrics can be very hard, all the anger. But when they are losing concentration, it's really affecting the quality of the weaving. So we experimented, and then we are seeing that as the women continue to weave, we saw transformation. The shawls and the scarves become more softer and more collected. And this is what you mentioned, Nim. When they are trying to process their thoughts and feeling, it allows them to weave the beautiful patterns of their lives, to dream what they want. That's the only place where they feel safe in their mind and in their heart. And it's reflected in the work that they are doing. So it is, in effect, giving that kind of healing power, and it is in a group of women, but as well as it's an individual journey of a woman maybe undergoing a lot of violence. And again, it's very very impactful for us. So I always say, even if the women don't know how to read and write, but they make the most amazing fabrics because they are weaving the beautiful patterns of their lives into those beautiful pieces.
Amazing. That's beautiful. And you've touched a couple of times on the sort of collective nature of the way that you work. So you mentioned that the women decide together who comes into the group. Can you talk a little bit about that and how important that, that collective working together piece is to how it all works?
It's not something uncommon because they are communal, no? The indigenous community are very communal. The more they work together, the better for them. So I think that is very much important. But also I think because they have shared common sufferings, but through that suffering, they recognize that they have the strength to do together. And that's why most of the work that we are doing is really done collectively. Decision-making are done collectively as well. So it's a very communal approach.
Yeah, and this is very much a part of the fair trade model, isn't it? That it's the people doing the work that are making their own decisions and building their own business and sort of helping them in that model. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Andy, you had a question. Can't hear you.
Yeah, he's still on mute. Okay.
Yeah, we go. Hi, Mitos. Powerful stuff. The women's stories. I was struck suddenly by the men's stories, and that the men who return are men with disabilities. They're as much victims of this conflict as the women are. And can you speak at all about the role of men and how are you working with men? Because men are part of the solution as well in terms of building stronger relationships and more respectful relationships in communities. It doesn't matter whether it's Australia, it doesn't matter whether it's India or in a refugee camp. If men aren't part of that solution, if men don't transform their own attitude towards women, nothing's going to change. Would you like to say a few words on that aspect? Because I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I think because of the distinct cultural, setup, women usually don't speak openly. But when we did a study and we find out what is the role of women and what's the role of men, the common response was that within their culture, the domestic sphere is the territory of the women. And so, but when it comes to community leadership, it's always the man's responsibility. And we also felt that because of that distinct characteristic, at the very beginning, it was very difficult to bring women to that level. So we realized that until women status are elevated, it would be difficult for them to have that kind of discourse with the men. So that's why the approach is that we empower the women so that they will come up to that level that they are ready to have that conversation with the men and to become equal, provide an equal leadership for the community. But yes, you are right, because actually we have a program. Part of the work that we are doing is actually provide safe space for young girls and for the youth. Most of the youth, the boys, their dream is to become a soldier because they want to take revenge. So that's why we open schools in order to provide them that opportunity to maybe delay. And so part is education, actually, talking about like masculinity. We have a gender program for the girls. We have leadership camps wherein young people come together and have a discourse. And we also have programs for the husband, for the men. But because we are working with the most vulnerable ones, the marginalized one, we work with men, especially those who come back from the war, who are traumatized, and help them reintegrate into the refugee camp, because they have, I think even during the Vietnam War, those who come back, actually, they can hear gunshots.
Yeah, they get
and they have the mental problem. They have that kind of, so part of the education that we have the men having that kind of discussion, we have a program called Household Development Approach, wherein family have to be able to have discourse, to have discussion in terms of the relationship between the husband and the wife, and also for them to recognize that there are changes actually in terms of how the society and the community is now evolving because of the man's inability to play productive role. That's why it's the women who are taking that responsibility. So within the fair trade setup, we also try to have funds, social funds, in order for the women to have access to a certain capital so they can have like either pig racing or domestic animal racing, and their husband can participate. So we do less of a talking, but more on concrete action so that they have a space to have a conversation. And for us, that is what we are doing, how to do it. We also deal with different levels of the men in the community in terms of the leadership, but in terms of focusing on at the household level, this is where we have the conversation, talking about family relationship and how they can contribute in the household economy building.
Thank you.
Sorry, Andy, that's very long to your short question.
Very interesting point, though.
No, very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thanks. Did anyone else have a question for Mitos they're thinking of there? Jump in. I can't see everybody, so you might need to just jump in because too many of you go off my screen here.
There is a question in the chat.
Yes.
How did COVID affect the fair trade enterprises in Asia?
It's a big
Thank
question.
you for this question, because actually 2 days after the WFTO declared that COVID is a pandemic, we collected all the members come together and define how we would like to respond COVID. We already anticipated that there will be lockdowns, and it was true enough. We couldn't ship, so there are existing products that are supposed to be shipped, but it got stuck in the country. But also, I think one of the pressing issue was actually in terms of the public health. So the WFTO Asia decided to develop our what we call the people's mask. We develop using fabric mask designed by a doctor in Hong Kong. It was laboratory tested, and then it's like open source. And we decided that the fair trade enterprises should be able to contribute to their country because there were a lot of shortage of PPEs. Some of our buyers in East Asia, in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, they pulled together and then they provided us with some capital. The whole idea is that they want to support fair trade enterprises in Asia. And our goal was to support at the country level. So like in my organization, we produce thousands of masks for the refugee community. So also India. But specifically, it was a very big problem because it affected the production line of the artisans, and many of the workers, mainly of the women who are in the, working in the fair trade, got affected with COVID. Many also died, So it was really very difficult. But through that Zoom, we were doing a lot of Zoom. We were experiencing Zoom fatigue, but that kept our solidarity intact. We are seeing that, in the midst of suffering, that, humanity, the human spirit is still there. And I think that was very good. That was a very good demonstration that as a community, we can really work together. Of course, we are experiencing problem, but one thing that was very, very important that I want to mention, none of our fair trade buyers canceled their orders. So it really helped us, and even our friends in Germany, for example, because of that, their government decided that they will not, they return the taxes that they are supposed to pay, and those were distributed to the fair trade producers in Asia. So we are seeing, we are really seeing that kind of, how do you call that? Weaving and supporting, and the compassion was there. It was not massive, but I think that kind of solidarity, that spirit of coming together, discussing problems, we were crying, especially those people that we love have to pass away, and there is nothing we can do. But I think above the challenges, the difficulty, rising above that situation, and knowing that we have the community helping us, really helped a lot. Also the global, we open up, what do you call it, platforms, so that the regional members can come together and keep on giving like inspiring stories. Africa was doing, South America and Asia. So yeah, I would say that it opened more opportunity for us. The COVID, it was a very horrible thing, but then it also opened, we didn't realize that we can do such thing. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, interesting. There's another question in the chat from Damien. He's asked, what are the challenges of getting the products to markets around the world?
I think actually what we are seeing in Asia, we did a survey before COVID, we are already seeing the decline. So the decline in as far as the sales are concerned. We are also seeing that those many, I think 10,000 villages, they have to close shop, Oxfam have to close shop. So we are experiencing decline in the sales actually. So it was very challenging for us. Bringing the products, it exacerbated because of COVID. actually. And global recession, the war in Ukraine, for example. When we visited in Europe, we saw big shops or big warehouses still full of a lot of handicrafts. So they are not able to move the products. And so it's a big challenge. So it really affects the whole chain. So in as much, and also in the past, and I think Andy can confirm that, you know, we in the South, in Asia, we sell most of our products in the North. Yeah. So in terms of diversifying the market, we're not really successful in doing that. And there's not much of sales during COVID. So we are not able to go and participate in this kind of fairs. So it's a combination of many things, I think, that is having a big difficulty for us, especially the producers groups.
Okay, yeah, I think and I think I know you've also mentioned, Mitos, that one of the things with COVID and just generally, you know, the cost of freight has been massively impacting, you know, getting things around as well. Yeah, okay. It's really interesting for us to hear those different sides of the story. I think in Australia, we had a lot of the sort of the lockdowns and things, but we certainly, most of us did not experience the level of death and illness that I know was very, and continues to be in some parts, a big part of the COVID experience in Asia. So our thoughts are with you and on that. So were there any other questions that people would like to put to Mitos? Anyone? Yes, yep. Robin?
Hi, hello everybody. I've got a Fair Trade shop down in Batemans Bay, south coast of New South Wales, and really love retailing fair trade goods when I can, but I have a mixture of other types as well, just ethically sourcing. But yeah, I was just interested in terms of at what points and at what level do you have people advising and helping to work out what it is a Western market might want in the products? Does WFTO have people at upper level, or is it just down at ground level where you're looking at how the finished product can fit into different markets? Just wondering how that works.
Yeah, WFTO tried to link with different organizations who provide some technical support. So sometimes we have sessions where we have designers coming and teach like what are the new trends. But this doesn't happen all the time. For some organizations that are much bigger, they have their own in-house like this kind of technical capacity. For smaller ones, yeah, we really don't have so much of that. We do, of course, follow trends, you know, what are the product trends, and get some inspiration in doing that. But yeah, there are already some initiatives to put together artisans into this organization who are able to provide technical assistance. Some of our buyers, or most of our buyers, are actually providing insight as well, which is very important for us, because I think even us, when we started, the products are inspired, you know, women's inspiration. But then sometimes when it comes to the market, this is not necessarily what the market wants. So it's really very good to have that kind of relationship with our buyers who can advise or who can provide technical assistance. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Oh, there's thanks, Jessie. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights. She's got to go. But thank you for joining us, Jessie. Yeah, so I think just one question I had, and then we'll see if there's any others, and we might wrap up, is that we've talked a fair bit about your work with Weave, but with your work with WFTO Asia, of course, you work with a lot of other organizations that you touched on. I was wondering if you could just share some of the variety of types of products and organizations in that broader Asia organization. Yeah.
Yeah, very diversified groups, no? Because although we are working in 20 countries, but we have groups in Southeast Asia. And so we have products, usually textile, and we also have agricultural products. So the textile includes accessories, home accessories, personal accessories, gifts, items, and also with agricultural products from, I think, organic rice, commodity side, coffee and spices.
Yeah, so there really is a broad range there.
There's a broad range there. Some of the artisans, they are into silver or like the accessories. What do you call that? The
earrings, yeah.
Earrings or, yeah. So we have variety of, not only in terms of, what do you call that? The raw materials. So it's a variety of raw materials and variety of products, but majority handicrafts.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. All right, well, I'll just do one more call out for if anyone has a question or a comment that you'd like to add, but otherwise I think we can't see any hands raised there. Thank you everyone for joining us, and especially thank you to Mitos for joining us and sharing your thoughts and story with us. And we wish you well for the rest of your trip around Australia, heading off to Perth tomorrow. So thank you for being with us, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, everyone.